Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to talk to you today about something that has been on my mind for a bit, and it just needs to be said. That the Democrats fucked up completely, and something drastic must change because this is untenable. I don't say that easily. I registered to vote as soon as I turned 18 in 2000, the year 2000. And I voted for Al Gore. And watched him lose. Although, I don't think we've ever really fully come to terms with how suspicious and wrong what happened in 2000 was. And how it really set us on the path to where we are today. But that's completely off topic. But my point is, I've been a Democrat, more or less, my entire adult life. But this is the first time that I've ever really been this disillusioned with the party as a whole. The biggest problem that I have with what's going on with the Democrats is that in the run-up to the election, they used very extreme rhetoric, very, like almost apocalyptic rhetoric about what would happen if Trump was back in office. And the truth of the matter is they weren't wrong. They weren't really exaggerating or anything. But even though they knew that it was going to be, like, ridiculously horrible, like, maybe even, like, democracy endingly bad, they, they just refused to listen to their constituency. And they're still doing it. They're still refusing. They're still trying to pretend like you can just go and have the same status quo rolling along. It's so ineffectual and it's so craven. Like they know that what's going on is killing people. Trans people, women who are pregnant, who have like complications, or any pregnant person having like complications is in extreme danger right now because there's so many legal gray areas and all these different rules in different states and different places, and people are losing their jobs. We're losing our standing in the world. We're losing a lot of really important business relationships. It was apocalyptically bad that he got reelected. They had the right rhetoric, but they wouldn't change their actions or their policies to match what the people wanted. They had a significant part of the party that was straight up saying, you are supporting genocide. I can never vote for you because you're supporting genocide. That is not the sort of thing that you should expect people to compromise on. Okay? They're like, well, this other guy is really bad too. I'm like, if they're drawing that moral line in the sand, you need to take it seriously. And they never did. They never took it seriously. And this is not a game. This is my life. This is all of my trans friends' lives. This is all of, anyone that I know that has the reproductive capability. I mean, until I go through menopause, I'm still in danger. If, say, I were to be sexually assaulted and become pregnant against my will, my life could be in danger because of what's going on. Because of foolishness. Just foolishness, The problem with the Democrats is that they're playing to the center and ignoring the left, ignoring the center left. They are going super hard centrist, almost conservative in policy. Well, actually, straight up conservative in policy. I mean, we could talk about the 94 crime bill as a good example of that. There was this idea that the Democrats looked weak and the Republicans looked strong, and that the Democrats needed to counteract that messaging by showing their strength, by being unmerciful and imposing just absolutely unwarranted punishments on people. I can't be part of a party that straight up ignores reality, or only will acknowledge reality when it's rhetorically beneficial, but when it comes to policy, there is no consistency. I feel like from our Democratic leaders, the leadership that's left on this sort of national level, and even in some state levels, there's some arrogance. There's this, well, we are so much better morally than the Republicans, and so we can never not have the moral high ground, And that's not true. You are not beyond reproach just because you're better than Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or Kristi Noem or whatever, You are not beyond reproach. Period. No one is. And if you're going to be a politician, you actually are so far away from beyond reproach. I mean, your whole life is going to be examined because it needs to be known if you have conflicts of interest, okay? Like, come on. I don't know what's going to happen in the next election cycle. What I keep telling everyone is that we really have to focus on local elections, local causes, smaller scale, because we don't have any sort of effective, responsive leadership for the left and center left and on the national level. And so those of us that now realize that the lesser of two evils is still evil, and is not going to truly fight back when the greater of the two evils is, I mean, like, literally trained, forcing people to detransition who are in prison. That is cruel and unusual punishment. This should not be illegal. It isn't legal. But does it matter? Does anyone care about the legality of anything? If it goes to the Supreme Court, do we have any belief that they will actually make a decision based on the law and not about what their political side wants? I have very little faith. Very little faith. The judicial branch has forked over its power. The legislative branch has forked over its power. And the Democrats are like, well, we didn't get elected, so there's only so much we can do. And I'm like, either this is the type of crisis where it's worth burning everything to the ground to stop what's happening from happening, or you guys are fucking liars. And if you're not lying about how existential the threat is in this current climate, which you're not, or accurately describing it for the most part when you do care to describe it, then your inaction is reprehensible. Because it shows you know how high the stakes are, but you're unwilling to do everything in your power to protect trans children, disabled people, asylum seekers, refugees, the least of these. I thought a lot of you identified as Christian, but apparently you leave that at home, maybe. Right now, I'm in a pretty, weird mental place. I deal with extreme chronic depression and SI sometimes. And there have been periods where I just cannot watch the news because it gets too triggering. Literally, the original meaning of triggering, it causes me psychological crisis. And this has happened to me before. It happened during COVID. It was just too overwhelming. But this time, instead of the news making me cry or break down in that way, it just infuriates me so much. It makes me so angry. It makes me want to scream. I feel like I have been screaming my whole adult life, saying, hey, we have to address these issues. We have to see the corruption that's building and do something about it and make things better. We need to try, if we're going to say we're the greatest country in the world, we shouldn't have people who don't have a place to live or food to eat. All children, no matter who their parents are, should be able to get a quality education. All of the things that a country that wants to truly be great should aspire to do are the exact things that Republicans would love to tear to the ground, to burn it all. And it's like they forgot that they live in a democracy. You remember there was a time when they'd say, if you don't love America, then leave it. Well, America is a democracy. If you don't like that, then why don't you leave it? Part of being in a democracy means that you have majority rule. They don't care about that. They know their policies and positions are not popular enough to actually gain widespread support. There is just video after video, quote after quote, of various different Republican operatives saying it is better for us if less people vote. Because they know their policy positions are not that broadly popular. The only way they can oppose their will upon everybody in this representative democracy is by making sure that only a small segment of the population actually goes to the polls. Because they have their little die-hard group of people that are going to go out and vote every election. And they have enough of them to be able to sort of technically be able to get themselves into power. And when they do, they keep expanding their power and expanding. You know, George Bush and the Patriot Act. There's a lot of bad stuff that happened during Bush's tenure that set us up for where we are. And it's so funny how quickly that's forgotten. But there's also a lot of really questionable stuff that the Democrats have been doing too. And the very fact that, you know, the leader of the party for a long time, Bill Clinton, was a known sexual predator. Like, so much awful thing about that man and how he would abuse his position of power in order to, you know, fool around with women. That's just gross. And, you know, like his wife, he knew his wife was ambitious. And to, like, publicly shame her like that by so obviously, like, cheating on her. It's so awful. You know? What a terrible man. Why would we ever want to venerate him? You know? I think that we have been told, the left and the center left, to just accept the best we can get. But the problem with that is the people who are willing to compromise are not going to hold to their principles. I mean, it's like, seems like it's self-evidently obvious, but if you have a person who is sort of like wibbly-wobbly centrist, leftist, you know, they kind of go where the tides are, you know, where the wind is blowing them politically or whatever. Like, if obviously they care about power more than representing certain principles, then they care more about power than principles. So why would we expect them to take that principled stand, you know? Like, I honestly think that with the current political structure in this country, without massive reform, like ranked choice voting and lots of other things, it's impossible for a person who is not morally compromised to become a national level politician. Probably the best in terms of like authenticity would be Congress people, because they have the smallest districts, right? And they have a very specific group of people they need to appeal to, correct? Well, the thing with that is they have to fundraise like basically constantly. They're running every election cycle, every 2 years. And, that next election basically starts as soon as the one that they just won ended. And they've got to be making calls and talking to donors and doing all this. And, a lot of money comes into them from people outside of their district. And then you're like, well, who are you really representing? Whose interests can you represent? And the districts that are traditionally lower income are going to be more susceptible to that type of corruption, because it's a lot more likely that a politician is going to find a donor from outside their district when the people in their district don't really have a lot of money to donate to politicians. The system is just, it's just set up to incentivize corruption. And so the natural conclusion of that is the people who are doing well in that system are at least willing to accept corruption in the system, if not actively corrupt themselves. I think before the election, I think I was still holding on a little bit to hoping that we could maintain some sort of status quo. That it wasn't going to be, necessarily as disruptive as... it's March. We're talking about effects that have happened in this country that have been, like, insanely wildly disruptive. And in a matter of weeks. We've got 4 years. So, and right now, I am so worried about, disease outbreaks. I'm immunocompromised. And vaccines have been made into a political issue. So people are, like, actively going out of their way not to be vaccinated in order to, like, gain clout and status within their social circle. That's gross. Because who they're probably most likely harming with that is not necessarily those people. It's the immunocompromised people that those people run into. It's a hard time. It's a hard time. It feels like the Democratic Party has decided that it's okay to let us suffer, for marginalized people to suffer and die. That this is just going to have to happen. And it's out of their control. And You see a lot of people, just common everyday people, putting up resistance and fighting and giving every bit of themselves to help people in their communities who are struggling to survive. And if people with that little power can use every bit of power that they have to help others, I don't understand how any senator or congressman or political strategist or governor or anything, any sort of politician or person with political power, why are you okay with letting me die? If Trump has his way, I'll never get my disability. I'll never have any sort of financial stability. And I don't know how I'm going to survive that if that happens. It's hard enough to want to be here some days. Even with the hope that at some point, the fact that I'm disabled and I paid into Social Security all the years I worked for the, potential that if I got disabled, I would have some sort of backup plan. And, apparently that's an entitlement. I don't know. Richest man in the world thinks he's gonna tell everyone else they need to cut costs. Okay. I'm sure you know a lot about that. I don't understand why you're where you are, Democratic politicians, if you're not going to do everything you can to protect the most vulnerable people in society, to protect your constituents. You should get the hell out of your position if you're not going to use every scrap of power that you have to fight back. You do not deserve to be where you are. If you don't do everything, spend every moment fighting, I can't. But you can. And you have so much better access than I will ever have. And it frustrates me that you won't take action. I don't know. I used to think that eventually the Republican Party would break in two, and you'd have the real right, and then maybe the center right. But it seems like their party has kind of coalesced and come around to being as extremist as the most extreme members. And I think Democrats, maybe it's time for us to diverge. Maybe this coalition party isn't working if the center won't listen to the rest of the coalition. It's time to burn it to the ground. Metaphorically, of course. We have to start over, which is a daunting task. But I don't know. I hope it can happen. Because otherwise, people like me, queer people, disabled people, poor people, the people on the edges of society, we're going to continue being sacrificed in order to maintain that status quo. Well, fun day for me, family members. I got to tell you, Kimmy was laying on this Pikachu over here, and she rolled off onto that other pillow. She was just wallowing around, and it was so funny. She was looking at me like, what just happened? I wish I had it on camera. It was adorable. So, sorry I missed that. If she does something cute like that again and I get it on camera, I'll put it on my shorts or something. Alright, take care of yourself, family members. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye.